Snipers, I hope you're all well. Welcome to Sniper Sundays. I hope you all had a good weekend and ready to get back into it and start looking at some pips for next week. Now, I'm going to start off with the news, fundamentals, because once again, last week was a very fundamentally based week. So there was lots of fundamentals, as we know. So a lot of the banks around the world speaking about interest rates. I'm just going back through it now. Interest rates. We had the FOMC, the official bank, the Bank of England, Bank of Japan. We had the Royal Bank of Australia, all in one day. We had the Eurozone talks many times, as we saw with Mario Draghi. So we had a lot of fundamental news last week. Now, next week is a busy week again. So we start off with Monday. We've got some news from the Royal Bank of Australia. We have on Tuesday OPEC meetings, which can massively affect the price of oil. Because this talks about, let's just have a look here. It discusses the output of oil and so on, the oil supply. So this is a case of supply and demand. So obviously, the more oil being supplied, the less the price is going to be. The less output of oil, then the higher the price, and so on. So that's something to look into, and you should start looking into if you're not really aware of the OPEC meeting and do some research on it. We have the Fed, the head of the Fed, Powell, speaking once again on Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Then Wednesday, we have the official cash rate coming from New Zealand. And then what else we have? A big one on Friday. Just get through this. Some more news on Thursday, but on Friday we have a G20 meeting. So this is a big meeting, and then we have again some Canadian news at 1:30, and the Bank of Canada speaking at 3:30. So loads and loads of fundamentals again this week, which is a good thing because we can capitalize. Means there'll be lots of movement and lots of and be able to catch lots of pips. But G20 meeting, big meeting on Friday, and just along with that. At the moment, what you need to be is very aware of the fundamentals because there's a lot of fundamentals. Like, let me just show you. Let's just go to, this is on Bloomberg. So we always know that we've got lots of Brexit news constantly coming out. We've got different people talk about being elected in the UK. Just lots of different things based around Brexit and a new Prime Minister being elected. Then, as I said, we have the G20 meeting this week, which is going to be heavily looked upon to see what the outcome of that is. And then also we've got obviously Trump tweeting. We have about different, let me just go to it here, talk about the Iranian rockets and missiles, the war, the attacks and stuff like that. All of this stuff really impacts the market. You can see here, oil could skyrocket over £100 per barrel if Iran-US war breaks out. Obviously, this is just news. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but this does help me when I'm analysing the market. When I was looking at oil, down here we were having talks about the Iran sort of war, Trump tweeting and stuff like that. So it didn't take a lot to work out that, all right, we need to look at the fundamentals, which always help paint the picture and give us the signs of what the market's going to do. But also with the fact that US oil is down at $50 a barrel, it was a cheap price for oil. So after such a big, huge fall, if you remember my Sniper Sundays 2-3 weeks ago, sorry, not 2-3 weeks ago, about 6 weeks ago before the community opened, looking at shorts around here and the shorts on the $63 per barrel, we came all the way down to $50 a barrel. So given that there was war talks and all sorts of things like that, and then there was also an attack on an oil rig, all of these things help your trades because obviously oil and gold mainly is like a safe haven, and price of gold goes up when there's a talk of a war or if there's any sort of uncertainty because people want to take their money out of currencies and put it into something safe like a safe commodity like gold because gold will always hold its value. Oil, again with the oil rigs and stuff with Iran, the Iranian war can also slow the supply of oil, which means that obviously the less supply, the more the demand, and therefore the price is increased. So these things are you need to watch out for. Keep an eye on the news. Keep an eye on world news at all times. have your mind on the market and just knowing what can come out, and also obviously the day-to-day fundamentals which I've just run through. So going back to charts, Euro USD, big strong week. We look at the weekly chart here. We can see how we've rejected that 1.1200 level and had that weekly bullish engulfing. Now, obviously looking very, very bullish on Euro USD. I am going to be watching this, however, because obviously, again, like I mentioned last week, everybody's going to be seeing a break of the trend line and thinking it's going to go up, and then we came down. Here, again, everyone's going to be expecting this to blow through the roof. Everyone's seeing US dollar weakness at the moment. So we might get oversold soon. I do expect Euro US dollar to come up higher, however. I do expect to come up into sort of these regions around here. But then I do expect a pullback from there. So I'm going to expecting price to come up a little bit higher, maybe up to around this sort of demand zone. But I do expect price to come up higher, and then I'll be looking at it coming back down. It could come down quite a bit, maybe back towards this trend line or a bit further. But I am keeping my eye on that. So we kind of need to let the market settle on Monday, because if I can just bring up, sorry, let's have a look here. This is the dollar index. On Friday, very, very late Friday, we had this big push through. So remember, we were looking at this to see could we get any sort of bullishness off that 96.50 level. We had a nice bullish engulfing here. Looked like we were going to start pushing back up. Remember, I was explaining to see how far could this actually go. Was always expecting a bit of a pullback, but only as a retracement. But then Friday, lovely bit of Friday manipulation, Friday evening, which is always a dangerous time to trade. That's why you might have seen a couple of times now that I've held off on entering a trade, like on gold, on Friday evening, because there's always a bit of last minute manipulation. Well, not always, but a lot of the time there's a lot of last minute manipulation and then sudden moves in the market. Now, there has been more talks, Trump's tweeting and more stuff happening over the weekend. So I want to see how the market opens and if this pulls back, or how the US dollar acts. And so Monday is going to be a day just to sort of see how we fare out over the weekend. I want to see how the market opens. But yes, I do think we're going to come up higher into this sort of region. And then from there, might see a pull back. I'm going to be kind of looking for those sort of situations. Euro USD, Euro GBP. You may have been stopped out from that trade that we gave up here. Or you might have just been in it by the skin of our teeth by a couple of pips. That trade that we were in from last week. You can see we came back up and hit that level again that Friday, a sudden surge. Then we had that really nice push back down from that level. Highlighted to look for a re-entry as we came back into that region. Pop back into it. I explained it could be on the 30-minute or the 1 hour. Expected a quick push back up and then a push back down. So came back in there. You can see that's where you could get your entry to take a short trade, and we're now pushing back down. However, I do think that on market open we might come up and fluctuate around this area once more, and we may see more opportunities to take a short trade. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. Euro NZD. This is why basically I wait it out, because on Euro NZD, I was explaining that I was waiting for price to come back up into this zone before taking a short trade, as explained in the group. We came up to that sort of area, had some nice bearish engulfing. Let me just zoom in. Some nice signs around here. That's where, let me just zoom out on the 4 hour. I believe it was here. Yeah, so you can see we had that bearishness. This is why if you take a trade, so it came up to that level like I was explaining. That's why if you take a trade from around these areas, once I highlight an area and then you see the weakness, if you take a trade, it's very important to put your stop loss into break even after 30 or 40 pips to stop price coming back up and moving against us. Because as I said, we're always in a up. At the moment, we're in an uptrend, so it's important to, once we find the top, to move our stop loss to break even to stop us from price moving against us. Now we can see prices moved up. We can looking quite bullish on this, but again, I want to see how the market reacts on opening. This was a very weird close on Friday, so I'm still watching price around this area. Same as Euro AED. Again, very important with trades, not to, as with Euro NZD, is not to, so it's down here. Sorry, I was getting this wrong. It's very important to know when to take trades and when not to take trades. For instance, as I explained on this last week, a lot of people are looking at taking a short trade after this big bearish candle and took short trades around this level. But in me holding off and telling you to wait until you come up to these areas, you saved 40, that's 100 pips that's been saved. Rather than jumping in here and wait up, and me telling you to wait, even though you haven't made profit, it saved you from making any losses. And then from here we can look at taking short trades. Obviously we're looking a bit bullish at the moment, so I'm going to be monitoring this, but understanding me telling you to be patient or telling you not to jump into a trade is almost just as important as telling you when to jump into it, because it saved anyone who's looking at taking short trades here after a big bearish move, which obviously looks good. If you place a short trade here, you can see bang, you barely any profit, and then you've gone into your stop loss. So I will update with this during the week. Same as Euro AUD, we've came back up to that area. I didn't explain. I was watching for any, we broke through, watching for any bearishness around this area. Then you can see we did have some nice bearishness around here. Doji candle, bullish and bearish engulfing. Again, if you took a short trade, once we drop down, you want to put your stop loss into break even. So then when we come back to retest a support like this, once it pulls back, all right, takes you out at break even, no bother, we'll just wait and see how price active it keeps pushing up. So you always get yourself in a good position to not get hit by the market. GBP AUD still moving up nicely. GBP looking bullish, bullish on the day here, and we can just see from that entry down here a couple of weeks ago, we still keep pushing higher and higher and higher. So keeping an eye on this. Let me just move this out of the way. Still keep pushing higher. Should have 80% of your profit taken on this. So we're just going to let this keep riding and let it fluctuate to see how far it can go. GBP USD, quite an interesting level we're coming into. What I think on this is, we just go back to a few weeks ago. When we first started the group, we had a long trade here, right from the bottom of here, and we ran into resistance here. Then we had another long trade here a week or so afterwards, and then we ran into resistance here again where this yellow highlighted zone is. Now we've dipped below, but we're running back up into this sort of range, the top of this range again. So we're sort of in this range, dropped below big time here, came up, but you can see here we're coming back into this resistance. So I'm keeping an eye on it, keeping an eye on the price around here. Obviously we've struggled to break above that a few times now. Let's look on the daily chart. You can see how many times the daily rejected it. So even though we're looking very bullish here, I'm keeping a close eye on this level to see what happens. As I said, we got a lot of GBP news, so I'm going to be keeping an eye out to see whether the pound just gets weaker once again. But it does look great here. Breakout, retest, continuation, but we are right on resistance now. So sit back and wait, and then we'll see whether we're going to be able to break through this, come back and look for a long, or whether we're going to reject this area and come back down. GBP JPY on a weekly, you can see there, weekly chart, that big doji candle looks really, really nice. You can see price seems like it's going to finally slow down after this big bearish momentum. I've got a clean chart here because remember I was saying once we break through this sort of level up here of support, there's not much for us underneath here. Now you can see, and that's why I was expecting to slow down around this area, because I don't think we're going to drop all the way down to the 1.27, 1.26 levels. So you can see here, the only support we had was here. We came down, found support, and bounced off. Daily, nice doji candle there, rejecting that sort of a pin bar, bullish engulfing. Bit of a weak morning star formation, but was there nevertheless. And yeah, now we're looking like we're going to start moving up. We'll be keeping an eye on this as we have a bit of a trend line come across here that will act as resistance. But what we might see is a little bit of a triangle formation come here, where we'll bounce up here, come up to the top of this on market open, and from this trend line come down, and then we'll decide, well, we might be able to take a short here, but we might see some price bouncing around inside here before we either break lower or we come from here and break higher. So keeping that on my watch list this week. USD JPY, again, similar to GBP JPY, you see here on the daily that doji candle after that big bearish candle the day before. Should we get a nice bullish candle next, it'll be a nice morning star formation if we've got a nice bullish candle tomorrow. Weekly looks quite bearish, but again, there's not a lot underneath here. You see here that we've got the next support is down at these levels. And again, you can see here just over on this here, we can see that we've had some weekly support. So we come down, we've tapped that once again. We're now sitting on that as a doji candle, looking now quite like we're slowing down. On the 4 hour, we've had a nice 4 hour bearish engulfing, bit of a shooting star, but pulling back at the moment. Keeping my eye on this, we may just be seeing a nice retracement on the Fibonacci. And coming back to retest that support that I've just seen this blue line. So broken through it, come back and retesting it as support. And then should we get the support there, this could now take off and fly up to the upside. So keeping an eye on that. We'll be watching it. Still keeping a long bias for the moment until I update and let you know anything different. I'm going to be watching market open to see how we react on market open. But you can see there, we have hit that support. We're showing signs of a reversal. But let's keep, obviously we didn't end great on Friday, but Friday, as I said, was a weird end to the market. So we'll be watching this and seeing if we can push back up to the upside. USD CAD, keeping an eye on this, broke through that 1.32500 monthly key level. I haven't got the blue highlighted zone on it because just to keep it clear, but you can see that is actually a monthly key level. So we smashed straight through that last week. Seeing a bit of a pullback at the moment with the daily, bit of a tweezer top there at the bottom. Keeping an eye on it. If we are going to push up, then I expect a push back down, one more push back down to see a bit of a rejection. And should we reject that, then we may be looking at a long trade on this again. Or we may just come back up to this 1.32500 level for a retest, and then maybe we might look at taking a short trade. So we all need to see how the US dollar acts this week. There's a lot of fundamentals. So even though the US dollar looked fairly weak last week, a lot that can change with the fundamentals this week with what is said coming from the G20 summit and from different zones over the next couple of days. Aussie dollar from last Sniper Sundays was explaining looking for long trades from this area 0.6875. Now we are down here. You see this lovely inverse head and shoulders, really nice reversal here. Some of you guys got it. I actually missed this one myself after having explained it, but you can see here for learning purposes next time, this inverse head and shoulders, we came up, retested that resistance at 0.6875, came back, rejected perfectly. This is a beautiful pin bar candlestick with no wick at the top, showing that the momentum is with the bulls and we're going to push up. So you could even take a long trade from there for a stop loss below the pin bar, and then yeah, we've had a nice move up. However, you can see here on the 4 hour chart 1, 2, 3 sort of rejections, a bit of a shooting star. So we look like we are due for a bit of a pullback. So I'm going to be looking out for that this week and seeing if we do have weakness on the US dollar, just a pullback before going higher, which may be possible on Aussie dollar. So, but as I said, there's Australian news on Monday. So that's the first bit of news coming out with the Royal Bank of Australia talking. So that will hopefully give us either an opportunity to take a long trade if it pulls back into this sort of 0.6875 level once again, or will let us know what the next direction is if we continue to push up. Similar story with NZD USD. Keeping an eye on this. We've got New Zealand dollar news coming out as well this week. We've had that push up higher off the back of a week of US dollar news and then New Zealand dollar news last week. Created a high, sort of slowed down, pulling back a bit. Haven't pulled back a lot. We may see a bigger overall pullback back down to something like this 61.8% level. And from here we could look at taking long. So there's a lot of opportunities that look great for next week. So I'm really looking forward to next week and seeing the opportunities play out. We just got a lot of setups like that come to us, and then we can take advantage. US oil, watching for possible trades on this last week, but given, I said, the news, we have to be very, very careful. Hedge trading is something I'm going to give a tutorial on hopefully next week for you guys, and just explaining how even though you got a long trade, also taking a short trade, so you have two trades running at the same time. And this is what many hedge funds and professional traders do with trades. And once I explain it to you, you'll understand it, and you'll wonder why you never knew it, because it's such a good tool to have. But at the moment, as I said, we saw with that news I showed you with the war talk and the fundamentals, US dollar could just continue. US oil could just continue. We could continue even above the previous highs. This could be a potential pullback on the big time frame. Let's just say, for instance, we had a Fibonacci here. You can see that 61.8% rejection there, that double bottom. There is an opportunity that oil could go a lot higher. So we've already got 650 pips. We could be talking another 600 or more. But let's not get carried away. I will be watching. As I said, there's always an opportunity that we can catch a retracement as well as a long trade, because anything that goes up needs to come down before it goes back up again. Even here, you can see as we're moving, we had that move down, retrace a couple of 200-300 pips up, then back down. So we may, now that we've got 650 pips in the bank, we may be able to capitalize on a 200-300 pip move back down before taking more long trades to go back up. So many different options with hedge trading that helps us out with that situation. Gold, again, as I said, safe haven. This has been pushed up massively because of all the fundamentals last week. I am keeping an eye on this, seeing if the talks relax a little bit, see if people take the money out of gold and it actually reduces in price. So I'll be watching to see how this opens up over the weekend talks with President Trump and so on. So lots to actually look forward to. I'm looking forward to next week. And also, guys, I am going to be doing a live webinar, I think on next Thursday evening. I will publish the details for you guys, the exact time. But I'm going to do our first live webinar where I'll go over some subjects in particular, but then I'll do lots of questions and answers, get back to loads of questions that you guys have, and then I'm going to start doing a regular after that. So the first one's going to be set up on Thursday, which is going to be really good for your learning. And as I said, I can go through some certain subjects like placing, support and resistance and stuff like that. Go through some stuff live with you and answering lots of questions, which I'm really looking forward to. So we'll catch up on market open, maybe at 10 o'clock this evening. Once the market opens, let's see how the market reacts. But then, as normal, letting the dust settle on Monday, and then we'll pick up from there and see what opportunities there are. But I do think it's going to be quite a juicy week. So have a good evening, and I will speak to you in the morning. Thank you.